This presentation, Coping with Change, or Looking at Change in a New Way, is brought to you by the Office of Formation and Discipleship, Archdiocese of Atlanta. Welcome. My name is Bill Clark. I am your presenter for the session on Coping with Change. If you have any questions, comments, or desire additional information, please contact me at the Office of Formation and Discipleship. My direct line is 404-920-7635 or by email at wclark@archatl.com. Let's open with a prayer. God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, courage to change the things I can, and wisdom to know the difference, living one day at a time, enjoying one moment at a time, accepting hardships as the pathway to peace, taking, as he did, this sinful world as it is, not as I would like to have it, trusting that he will make all things right if I surrender to his will, that I may be reasonably happy in this life and supremely happy with him forever in the next. Amen. Let's review our agenda. First, we'll discuss what is change. Next, why do we as people tend to resist change? Then, change in the workplace. Next, how to cope with change. Then, the change parable. We will go into a parable entitled "Who Moved My Cheese" that illustrates the great wonder of change. Let's start with a definition of change. What is change? Make the form, nature, content, future course of something different from what it is or from what it would be if left alone. Characteristics of change. Change is global. It's everywhere. It happens all the time. Change is constant. Some say there is nothing as constant as change. Change is inevitable. It will happen. It has to happen. But at the same time, change can be very stressful, and underneath it all, change is necessary. The important point to remember is that we can't control change. We can only control our attitude towards change. Why do we as people tend to resist change? Well, we are creatures of habit. We like to do things the same way all the time, every time. Anything that interferes with our routine, we tend to view as suspect. There are many examples that occur every day that illustrate how we resist change. Getting ready in the morning, we go through the same routine all the time. Driving to work, we probably drive the same route every day. Starting our workday, we do the same thing. What and where we eat, where we sit in church. Some people think that that pew, that seat, literally belongs to them. Where we shop, what music we play and listen to, what TV programs we watch. These are all examples of the routine that we build into our life that makes us feel comfortable. Let's illustrate how we are creatures of habit by doing a couple of exercises. The first exercise, I'd like you to fold your arms across your chest. Go ahead, do it now. Now, fold them in reverse fashion. Put the other arm on top of the one that you had previously. Our body is programmed to do things the same way all the time, whether it's how we shake hands, cross our legs, comb our hair, brush our teeth. We just do them the same way all the time. Now let's do another exercise. Cross your legs, okay? You will always do it the same way every time. It's almost impossible for you to cross the other leg over the preferred way. Now let's talk about change in the workplace. Why do we tend to resist change at work? We've already illustrated how difficult it is for our body to make changes. Well, it happens too at the workplace. Well, we don't see the need for change. In our world, we would like it to stay the way it is. Or we are afraid of the unknown. Or we have concern about our need to learn new competencies. And we're just comfortable with the old way of doing things. It's like an old pair of slippers. We just like it that way. Perhaps we were not consulted in advance for our opinion. Maybe there was poor communication of the change. Perhaps it upsets our current routines and status quo. Or the possible loss of job security or control. We're worried that the change might affect us personally. Now let's review how you can cope with change. First of all, we need to accept that change is an attitude that you can control. Secondly, we need to focus on what you can do, not what you can't do. Focus on what you like about the change, not what you dislike. Third, view change as an opportunity instead of a problem. Fourth, create a willingness to learn and develop. Fifth, realize that you are responsible for what you do or don't do when change occurs, nobody else. These tips are a part of Embracing Change by Philip Wiley. Let's illustrate change by discussing a change parable. Change is better understood when viewed through the prism of a parable. Now, what's a parable? It's a story that conveys a meaning indirectly by comparison or analogy. The Bible has many examples of how Jesus used parables to help explain complex issues, like the prodigal son, or the lost sheep, or the Good Samaritan. Let's review a classic parable about change entitled, Who Moved My Cheese? The parable, Who Moved My Cheese, is based on a book by Dr. Spencer Johnson, MD. It's an amazing way to deal with change in your work and in your life. The book, Who Moved My Cheese, became a best-selling sensation. It was a New York Times bestseller when released, and it remained there for 5 years. It was on the Publishers Weekly's nonfiction bestsellers list for over 200 weeks. It has sold more than 26 million copies worldwide in 37 languages. It remains one of the top-selling business books of all times. It is truly something that we can learn from. Let me give you the background to the story. The book itself is a timeless allegory revealing profound truths about change. It takes place in the maze. The maze is a metaphor for where we work, where we live, the families we love, the places where we find what we want in life. It reviews our goals in life, or our cheese, which may be our career, our loving relationships. It may be the desire for wealth, a large home, spiritual peace of mind, rank or privilege. The parable tracks four characters in search of their cheese: two mice and two little people, and their experiences are recorded on the maze walls as the handwriting on the wall. It reviews their discoveries, allows them to see the simplicity and necessity of adapting to change. Now, let's begin our story. Once upon a time, long ago, there lived four little characters who ran through a maze, looking for cheese to nourish them and make them happy. Two were mice named Sniff and Scurry, and two were little people named Hem and Haw. Every morning, the mice and the little people headed over to Cheese Station C, where they found their preferred kind of cheese. It was a large store of cheese. Hem and Haw moved their homes to be closer to it and built a social life around it. To make themselves feel more at home, Hem and Haw decorated the walls with sayings. One read, "Having cheese makes you happy." One morning, Sniff and Scurry arrived at Cheese Station C, and there was no cheese. They weren't surprised. They saw the supply of cheese getting smaller every day. They were quickly off in search of new cheese. Later that same day, Ham and Haw arrived. "What? No cheese? Who moved my cheese? It's not fair," Ham yelled. They went home that night hungry and discouraged. But before they left, Haw wrote on the wall, "The more important your cheese is to you, the more you want to hold on to it." The next day, Hem and Haw returned to Cheese Station C. Still no cheese. Haw asked, "Where are Sniff and Scurry? Do you think they know something we don't?" Hem scoffed, "They're just simple mice. We're little people. We're smarter." Haw suggested, "Maybe we should stop analyzing so much and go find some new cheese." Haw decided to leave Cheese Station C, while Hem was more comfortable staying in the cheeseless Station C. Haw wrote, "If you do not change, you can become extinct." Meanwhile, Sniff and Scurry went farther into the maze until they found Cheese Station N that had a great supply of new cheese. Haw became more anxious and asked, "Do I really want to go out into the maze?" He wrote a saying on the wall ahead of him and stared at it for a long time. What would you do if you weren't afraid? Haw now realized that to change should not have taken him by surprise if he had been more observant and had anticipated change. He stopped for a rest and wrote on the wall of the maze, "Smell the cheese often so you know when it is getting old." Haw asked himself, has Hem moved on, or is he still paralyzed by his own fears? Then Haw remembered the times when he had felt his best in the maze. It was when he was active and moving around. So he wrote, "Movement in a new direction helps you find new cheese." Haw smiled as he started to run down the dark corridor. He yelled out loud, "I am beginning to discover what I really like in life." Haw was letting go and trusting what lay ahead. Haw started to enjoy himself more and more. He stopped to write again on the wall, "When you move beyond your fear, you feel free." To make things even better, Haw painted a mental picture. "I'm sitting in the middle of a pile of my favorite cheeses, from cheddar to brie." The more clearly Haw saw the image, the more real and believable it became. So he wrote, "Imagining myself enjoying new cheese, even before I find it, leads me to it." Haw wondered why he thought the change would lead to something worse. He realized that change could lead to something better. Then he raced through the maze with greater strength and agility until he found traces of new cheese. He entered the new cheese station, but someone had already been there. He stopped and wrote on the wall, "The quicker you let go of old cheese, the sooner you find new cheese." Haw made his way back to Cheese Station C and said to Hem, "Would you like some scraps of new cheese?" Hem replied, "No, thank you. I want my old cheese back." Haw shook his head, but the disappointment did not stop him from continuing to look for new cheese. Haw smiled as he realized it is safer to search in the maze than remain in the cheeseless situation. Haw realized that what you are afraid of is never as bad as what you imagine it to be. He realized it was normal for change to happen, whether you expect it or not. Haw exclaimed, "Change can surprise you only if you don't expect or anticipate it." When he realized he had changed his beliefs, he paused to write on the wall, "Old beliefs do not lead you to new cheese." Haw now realized that his new beliefs were making him behave in a new way. He was different than the person who kept returning to the same cheeseless station. He shouted, "It all depends on what you choose to believe." He wrote on the wall, "When you see that you can find and enjoy new cheese, you change course." Haw just hoped he was heading in the right direction. He prayed that Hem would read the handwriting on the wall and find his way. He wrote on the wall what he had been thinking about for some time. Noticing small changes early helps you adapt to the bigger changes that are to come. He continued through the maze with greater speed. He rounded a corner and found new cheese at Cheese Station N. It was the greatest supply of cheese he had ever seen. Sniff and Scurry were there and cried out, "Welcome to Cheese Station N." Hooray for change! Haw wrote down a summary of what he had learned on the largest wall in Cheese Station N. He smiled as he looked at what he had learned. The handwriting on the wall summary. Change happens. Anticipate change. Monitor change. Adapt to change quickly. Then change. Enjoy change. Be ready to change quickly and enjoy it again. Are you now better prepared to cope with change? In conclusion, if you want to find your cheese in life, you must be willing to adapt and change. You can't prevent change from happening. All you can do is adjust your attitude about change. Thank you for your time and attention. If you have any questions or need additional information, please contact Bill Clark at the Office of Formation and Discipleship. My direct line is 404-920-7635. My email is wclark@archatl.com. Thank you. God bless you.